up. Let's bring in my guy, Jeff Howe of The Athletic. Jeff, good to talk to you, my man. Me and Jeff go way back to our Boston days. Happy to have you on here with the Drive guys.
Hey, what's up, man? It's good to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, man. Let's dive right into it. Let's talk about the 49ers first. Coming off the big win against Seattle, 3 straight W's. They had lost 3 straight before the bye week. What do you think's been the biggest difference for them? Why are they back to playing as well as they were the first 5 weeks of the season?
Well, I think it's a collective thing. I mean, there's so much focus, at least I think nationally, and I'm sure in the market there too, on Brock Purdy. But it's more than Purdy. I mean, they got a little healthier, of course, on offense, and he's able to distribute the ball a little better. Getting Trent Williams back. I mean, Trent Williams is sort of quietly discussed in league circles as one of the best offensive players, one of the best non-quarterbacks on offense in the entire league. I mean, he makes that much of a difference for them. And then defensively, I mean, I don't know what was going on with their defense during that 3-game losing streak, but they just weren't putting up a whole lot of resistance. So, yeah, I mean, Brock Purdy and company sort of got a lot of heat, I think, at least on a national scale. But their defense was forcing him to almost play a perfect game. And when he wasn't able to do it, I think the spotlight kind of focuses on the quarterback. And I think, it's fair to an extent. And I know the people I spoke to before the season, one of their biggest concerns with Purdy is, can he lead them from behind? Can he go throw for throw in a tight game in the fourth quarter? And the comeback efforts were lacking, certainly. But when they're a more balanced team, they're as good as anybody in the league.
Jeff Howe of The Athletic joining us. I want to ask you about Brock Purdy, Jeff, because here's the thing. And High Flyer, you could chime in on this too if you want. I've been saying all season long, Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. He's good. But he got weapons, Jeff. You throw Mac Jones in this situation, Jeff, and I know you see Mac Jones a lot. You throw Mac Jones in this situation, I don't know if he'd be as good, but he'd be much better than what he is in New England. Is Brock Purdy a product of the system and talent? And does it take a huge win on the road, let's say this week against Philly, to silence those doubters?
I have learned a lot, especially over the last 2 years, about how necessary it is to have everything around you moving in the right direction if you're a young quarterback or a quarterback of any age. I mean, look at Tom Brady in his final year in Tampa. The offensive system was stale. The offensive line wasn't great, and Tom Brady didn't look great as a result. You look at Trevor Lawrence with Urban Meyer. I mean, nobody could have succeeded there. You look at Mac Jones in his rookie year compared to Mac Jones with Matt Patricia as the offensive coordinator, and the toll that took on him last year and bled into this year. There are very few, if any, quarterbacks who can go into an imperfect situation and play at a high level. I mean, maybe Patrick Mahomes, but I mean, even Mahomes has kind of struggled at times when he doesn't play within himself or within Andy Reid's structure. I mean, you look at the way that Josh Allen has struggled on some of it, certainly on his own. So the product of the system thing, I think, is taking away from what Brock Purdy's been able to accomplish. Now, obviously, that Kyle Shanahan system is user-friendly once you have shown an ability to operate within it. And not everybody can do that, and clearly. And Brock Purdy has done it at a very high level. So, yeah, I mean, if you put if they drafted Mac Jones instead of Trey Lance, and if Mac Jones got off to a better start, yeah, I think that would have been a perfect situation, a perfect setup for somebody like Mac Jones. Like you said, I agree that I don't know if Mac Jones could have operated at as high of a level as Brock Purdy is when he's on his game. I think he's got some intangible elements that have been on display with the toughness and some of the mobility. But yeah, the product of the system it's kind of like nails on a chalkboard for me, because I think it takes away from the credit of the quarterback, and it also dismisses how important having that system in place is for the quarterback.
But you know what, Jeff? I have to say this. When you have a system that's tried and true, like Shanahan does, it works. And I think that makes a quarterback even bring out the best of himself, because really, you don't have to be Herculean on your own. You don't have to just tuck the ball and make something happen on the run. You can just go through the motions in the system, because the system is going to make something happen for you.
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the best offensive coordinators, best play callers, or best offensive-minded head coaches in this situation, those guys are always going to be able to scheme up a way to get guys open. And it doesn't have to be somebody with the talent level of a Devo or an Ayuk or a Kittle or a McCaffrey. I mean, you get the fifth guy, it doesn't matter who it is. If you've got the right scheme and you've got that art as a play caller, you're always going to be able to find and create opportunities, and you're certainly going to be able to call plays to your quarterback's strengths. Shanahan's system is outstanding. There's a reason why there are only a handful of people who can do it at the level that he's done it. And everybody's trying to, the copycat league and that cliche, people are always trying to steal the best coach's stuff. But there's an absolute art form in being able to call it within the flow of the game on Sunday with the adversity and all that stuff that comes with it.
Jeff, let's talk about the opponent for this week, the Philadelphia Eagles. Another tight game, another close game. Jalen Hurts leading them down the field, getting the touchdown in overtime as they beat the Buffalo Bills 37-34. When you look at Philadelphia and all the tight games that they've played, the fact that they've won those games, should that be celebrated or a cause of concern if you're an Eagles fan?
Celebrated, because they are working through some things. They haven't played a perfect game, and who knows, maybe they won't, if there is such a thing as a perfect game. But I think it's absolutely fascinating that they are winning these games, whether they're lower-ish score. I mean, they don't play a lot of low-scoring games, but they can. I mean, if they need to. You got Jalen Hurts playing at an MVP level. And then you got the high-scoring game, like, Buffalo, a medium-ish scoring game against Kansas City. But, this is a team that continues to find different ways to win. And the more confidence that you have in yourself when you put yourself in those situations, I mean, that manifests throughout the course of the season. I mean, we saw it with the Patriots for however many years. I mean, last year you saw Jacksonville with that type of element. I mean, how many times when the game's on the line, you got Patrick Mahomes with the ball in his hand, it doesn't matter how he's played for 3.5 quarters, whether it's great or poor or somewhere in between, somebody who's able to deliver. Now you've got the Eagles who are playing it that sort of way, and it's, Hurts has been outstanding. I think probably at this point my pick for MVP. But not just that. I mean, you've got guys like A.J. Brown who at the receiver position is able to take over games and make game-winning plays on a weekly basis. I mean, this is a team that really believes in itself. What Nick Sirianni has done after losing both coordinators, after losing the Super Bowl, I mean, the toll that takes on a team to kind of recollect yourself over the offseason, to come back to work on a weekly basis, and to do it with two new play callers is outstanding. I mean, it's really impressive what they've done. I also think, if they were, let's say they were undefeated, let's say they were 11-0 at this point, I would be more concerned, which I know is kind of a weird thing to say, but when you start to get that pressure starts to catch up to you. So when you're in those closer games, you get a little tighter. You can sit there and look at the schedule and say, how in the world did they lose to the Jets? And you should say that, but it's probably the best thing that happened to them because they got that one out of the way. And they've got this incredible string of opponents here. They just knocked off the Cowboys, Chiefs, and Bills in succession, and they were all one-score games. And they keep delivering at the end. I think it's really impressive.
You know what? Let me put this out there first and foremost, because I want to continue to work on this show. I like what Jalen Hurts is doing as a quarterback. I have to agree with you on that. But I do want to ask you this, because we talk about the 49ers and we say they're pretty much the most balanced team in the NFL as far as on the offense and defensive side. When you look at the Eagles, are they more offensive dominant? Are they winning games through their offense, or are they capable of winning games through their defense?
They are capable of winning games defensively. I mean, they've had some inconsistencies with their secondary. Their pass rush isn't as good as it was last year, but I mean, they had like a freakishly good pass rush last year. So there's no shame in not having 75 sacks again for a second year in a row. But I mean, this is a team that now can win offensively because Jalen Hurts is playing at such a high level. And again, the A.J. Brown factor is outstanding. And you've got Devontae Smith, who, I mean, it's still incredibly talented. hasn't put up the same numbers as A.J. Brown, but I think that's a testament to how well A.J. Brown is playing. So I think this is more of an offensive team right now, but that's, again, there's no shame on what their defense is doing because they can get after you. They still can rush the passer at a high level, and they're still sort of figuring things out with the new defensive play caller too. And again, I think that's kind of why they haven't played that perfect, quote-unquote, perfect game that you've heard them reference after a lot of these close ones this season, but they just keep getting better.
Jeff Howe of The Athletic joining us. Jeff, obviously big game for both teams. We started this show off earlier talking about how it's probably a more important game for the Niners going into this. How do you see it, and how do you think this one plays out?
It's definitely a more important game for the Niners because they're still alive for home field. So if they lose, you're 3 back of the Eagles. You're not catching them. So now all of a sudden, that the NFC goes through Philly, and that's not an easy place to play in January. It's probably a night game, probably going to be cold, probably going to be uncomfortable for a team coming from San Francisco if they end up getting to that point. So if the Niners are able to knock them off, they've still the Eagles still have to come back. They've got the Cowboys after that. They go to Seattle after that, and then they've got 3 pretty easy ones from there on out. But I mean, if they can knock off Philly with the way Philly's playing right now, with the way Philly is able to win these games, then that shows what the 49ers can do in January. And I think ultimately that's the most important thing. Whereas if the Eagles lose this game, they've still got a buffer in the NFC East. They've still pretty much got a buffer, and they've still got a little bit of room for error in terms of the chase for the number 1 seed. And they can sit there and say, yeah, you know what? We lost to the Niners, but look at everybody else that we've beaten over the last couple months. And they're still going to know that they're a good team.
Jeff Howe of The Athletic, appreciate your time, my man. Make sure you follow him on Twitter, Jeff P. Howe. Jeff, always good talking to you, man.
Yeah, likewise. Appreciate you guys for having me.
All right, we're going to continue to get you ready for that big game all throughout the week. Eagles, Niners, NFC Championship rematch. You're listening to the